Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. My name is Hasnira binti Kasbullah. In this video, together with my group mates, we will present about Haze in Southeast Asia. I will start with the introduction of this topic. Air pollution can be defined as any chemical, physical, or biological agent that alters the natural characteristics of the atmosphere. Motor vehicles, industrial activity, and forest fires are all common sources of air pollution. All of these sources will cause smoke, which later become haze that will cause huge problems for various parties if failed to control. According to the World Health Organization (WHO), nearly all of the world's population, specifically 99%, breathe air that includes high level of pollutants, with low and middle-income nations suffering the most. The effects of air pollution include ozone layer depletion, haze, acid rain, and an increase in global temperature. As mentioned before, haze is one of the effects of air pollution. It is an atmospheric phenomenon that occurs when dust, smoke, and dry particles in the air obstruct the visibility of the sky. Has contributed to various effects including health problems to individuals, including eye irritation, skin problems, and more serious respiratory disorder. Also, it affects daily activity such as closing of education sectors and economy sectors, and in terms of safety, there is high probability of accidents happening due to the limited sight distance. There are many factors that contribute to the haze, namely volcanic eruption, human activities such as open burning, forest burning, factory emissions, car traffic pollution, and the burning of coal and other fossil fuels are said to exceed natural resources in haze production. Haze in Southeast Asia is one of the popular issues related to the transboundary environment. This is because it involved and affected the daily activity of neighboring countries. In fact, in 2019, the Malaysia Day celebration, which was supposed to be held in a lively manner, had to be held indoors due to the air pollution index readings in some areas being high, which are more than 200. Not only Malaysia, haze pollution affects many of Southeast Asian nations, including Indonesia, Singapore, and Brunei, as well as Thailand, Vietnam, and the Philippines to as a lesser extent. And open burning had contributed to the existence of haze in Southeast Asia during that time. The question is it the only reason for the haze in Southeast Asia, or there are any other reasons?
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Nur Akila Najiha binti Rasimi. Today I would like to present about the issue of haze in Southeast Asia, focusing on Malaysia and Indonesia. Haze pollution affects several Southeast Asian countries on a regular basis, notably Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore and Brunei, and to a lesser extent Thailand, Vietnam and the Philippines. In September 2019, Malaysia experienced haze after enduring a severe haze episode in past years, and this is associated with the open burning of biomass and forest fires in Sumatra and Kalimantan, Indonesia. According to Koh and Jaim, many farmers in Indonesia practice shifting agriculture, which is a traditional farming method that involves clearing tracts of forested land for cultivation using the slash and burn method. This practice as large-scale burning is carried out to prepare land for the planting of commercial crops such as oil palm. However, this has led to the emergence of conflict between Malaysia and Indonesia, where Malaysia also has been blamed by the Indonesian government representative, which is international environmental group Greenpeace, by accusing a Malaysian-owned palm oil company as among the 10 palm oil companies whose concessions had the largest burn area, significantly contributing to the Indonesian haze. which is some Indonesian companies are linked with Malaysian companies. However, Malaysia has denied the allegations made by the Indonesian government. To sum up briefly, the Ministry of Energy, Science, Technology, Environment and Climate Change, Ms. Isna Raisah from Malaysia, has sent a diplomatic note to the Indonesian government to deal with the transboundary haze problem so that immediate actions would be taken to prevent open burning from happening in the region again. Next, I will present about the effects of this haze. The haze condition that has hit the country has caused health problems for the body. As we know, haze is dangerous because haze is a mixture of airborne pollutants that include soot particles, carbon dioxide and other toxic gases that can affect health. Individuals can experience symptoms for short-term effects such as irritation of the eyes, nose and throat in healthy individuals, while continuous exposure to haze will raise the risk of bronchitis and a higher incidence of lung cancer. According to Kanyakumari 2019, during September, Dr. Kavita Ramachandran from Clinic Nadia states when patients contracted respiratory infection from other sources, it could take them longer to heal due to the unhealthy air. Therefore, it is advisable for them to stay indoors and drink plenty of water. My point number 2 is the haze that hit Malaysia shows that the effects of the haze clearly have a negative impact on the economy. For the economic sector during September 2019, the haze has a more direct impact on the tourism sector, and Malaysia is expected to lose millions of ringgit in potential income due potential loss from employees calling in sick. Malaysian Association of Tour and Travel Agents MATA Jimmy Thu said that the worsening air quality has reduced the tourist arrival, which is 20%, including the likelihood of flight booking cancellations by the tourists. According to University Putra Malaysia, Economy and Management Faculty Senior Lecturer Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Yusof Saari estimated that Malaysia could lose close to 400,000 a day from workers falling sick, going by the country's productivity statistic that an employee will generate 225 daily towards the national income. It was a government concern because it contributed to the country's revenue to ensure that the country is always developed and harmonious. My last point is haze pollution has affected educational institutions. Schools located in areas with higher pollution from industrial sources had the lowest attendance rates and highest proportion of students who failed to meet state educational testing standards. In Malaysia, the closure of educational institutions such as schools will be implemented based on a pollution index reading. The API usually indicates that hazardous and dangerous levels of pollution during this period. According to the Education Ministry said in a statement that 1,484 schools in Sarawak, Selangor, Putrajaya, Kuala Lumpur, Perak, Pulau Pinang and Negeri Sembilan have forced to close due to the worsening air pollution, affecting 1,003,310 students due to the high air pollution index during September 2019. This is for the safety and well-being of the students.
The Domestic Transboundary Haze Pollution Act should be enforced by the government in Malaysia due to the transboundary haze pollution that occurs every year in Southeast Asia. This action is urgently needed by the government. The purpose of Malaysia's Domestic Transboundary Haze Pollution Act is to take extraterritorial action against Malaysia-owned business abroad that contribute to the haze. One of the ASEAN countries that have implemented the law is Singapore, known as Singapore Extraterritorial Transboundary Haze Pollution Act, THPA. It is a domestic legislative measure that holds negligent business with overseas headquarters company or operation that lead to haze pollution in Singapore to both civil and criminal liability. This law is legitimate and recommended to be implemented in compliance with the ASEAN Agreement on Transboundary Haze Pollution, we specific in Article 4, Subsection 3. that member nations must take legislative, administrative or other steps to carry out their commitments under the agreement. Transboundary haze pollution legislative will provide the access to justice, improving safety, livelihood and well-being, and promoting human rights for sustainable development. The other recommendation can be implemented to mitigate the haze pollution is by educate local communities to restore tropical peatlands. They need to be exposed with more knowledge and additional training or sustainable agriculture practice in ensuring fire can be avoided that lead to haze pollution. It is a factual that the existence of dry peatlands is known as the sine qua non, or the requirement without which fire cannot start and spread. Naturally, moist areas of decomposing material are called peatlands. Despite being nutrient-rich, they are very combustible when dry. However, because oil palm can only grow in dry soil, growers are forced to draining these swamps. The local communities can restoring the tropical peatlands by wet soil cultivation or known as polyculture, where crop production in wet soil, to prevent peatland from being drained of its water for agriculture, and based on the way, it can encouraging local communities to switch to cultivating water and flood tolerant crops like sorghum palm and swamp taro to taro them from draining the peatlands. To be the conclude, not only is peatland management essential to safeguard environmental sustainability and service, but also to ensure sustainable use of resources.
Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Izzuddin. Seeing our topic of haze and how it affects the air pollution in Malaysia, we can see some of the points of some of the implications that we have learned based on the topic. And one of it is how air pollution has affected the livelihood of populations, especially in Malaysia. It's because the rate of livelihood is important to show how safe is a country and how well-being the community of a country. And by learning about the livelihood of our country, we can see that air pollution had affected greatly on the livelihood of our country. The seriousness of air pollution also can be seen by the rise of threat of premature death. This is a serious matter because premature death indicates or shows that populations suffer from an issue of people dying before the average age of death of our populations. We can also see air pollution problem can lead to a negative chain reaction towards the national economy. We can see within Malaysia, in 2020, it has been reported that Malaysia have suffered 303 billion ringgit, that is equivalent to 20% of the gross domestic production of Malaysia of the same year, just because of air pollution. And this loss of profit can be seen by the costs that had been affected by air pollution, by the direct costs that have been suffered, like labor costs, labor productivity, health expenditure, and also the production of agriculture products. Air pollution also affected that area. And the other area is the non-market or the indirect market costs, where it is a cost that have to be suffered by country to handle mortality rate and the utility of illness. And based on these situations and based on the issue of air pollution and other environmental issues, we can see that it is there is a must, or there is an indications of governments, or there is expressions of governments where they have to shift the paradigm of integrating between national development and environmental management. We can see that by integrating both of these concepts, or both of these ideas, which is development and environmental change, it encourages creativity and innovations to handle or to tackle environmental issues based on the demographic, culture, and the economy of countries. in Malaysia. We can see this on the initiative taken by the Sabah State Government initiative that give certifications to palm oil production that compiles to sustainable environmental ethical conduct, which encourages them to be more compliant towards environmental management ethical principle. It is the concern of how government have to use risk management or optimize risk management with the guidance of foresight and long-term solution to anticipate and face future natural disaster with a holistic plan that will not cause further damages or unintended damages in our current country. And I guess that's all from us. Thank you for listening.